In our last video about the dealership parts trap, a viewer named Sean left a comment that hit the nail on the head. He said this country is going the way of Cuba. People in Cuba drive very old cars because that is all they can afford. He is absolutely right. With new trucks costing $80,000 and dealerships actively discontinuing the computer modules required to keep older trucks alive, Americans are being forced into a corner. But blue-collar mechanics are not giving up. They are executing the ultimate act of automotive defiance. Today, we are exposing the carburetor rebellion. We are looking at why mechanics are intentionally ripping the federally mandated computers, wiring harnesses, and emission systems out of their trucks, and dropping in pure analog crate engines. More importantly, we are going to show you why the EPA and state regulators are actively trying to make this exact mechanical survival tactic federally illegal. To understand why this rebellion is happening, you have to look at the trap of electronic fuel injection. When EFI became standard in the late 80s and early 90s, it was hailed as a massive leap forward. Better fuel economy, easier cold starts, and smoother idling. But that convenience came with a fatal hidden cost. It relied on a web of fragile sensors, miles of copper wiring, and an engine control module to act as the brain. For the first 10 years, it worked fine. But the engineers in Detroit did not design those wiring harnesses to last 3 decades. The plastic connectors turn brittle and shatter in your hands. The wire insulation degrades and cracks from engine heat. And to make matters worse, automakers began using soy-based wire insulation that literally attracts rodents to chew through your main harness. Trying to chase down an intermittent electrical ghost, a bad ground, or a parasitic draw in a 25-year-old electronic fuel injection harness is a mechanic's worst nightmare. As we showed in our last video, when that proprietary computer finally fries, or when the mass airflow sensor fails and the dealership marks the replacement part as discontinued, your highly advanced electronic fuel injection system becomes a useless brick. Your truck is dead and the dealership holds the only key. So what are smart owners doing? They are refusing to play the game. When a factory engine dies or the electronics become too expensive to chase, mechanics are making a radical decision. They are pulling the entire wiring harness out of the truck and throwing it in the trash. They are taking a pair of wire cutters and severing the connection to the modern world. They are taking early 2000 era Ford Rangers and dropping in carbureted 302 V8 engines from 1980s Mustangs. They are taking Chevy Silverados, ripping out the computerized V6 engines, and dropping in classic 350 small block engines. They are intentionally deleting the truck's brain. Now, any master mechanic knows that when you rip the computer out of a 2000 era truck, you trigger a massive domino effect. If you delete the engine control module, your electronically controlled automatic transmission, like GM4L60E or Ford 4R70W, loses its mind. It defaults to maximum line pressure and locks itself in limp mode. But the guys doing these swaps don't care, because they are ripping those out too. They are bolting older, fully hydraulic transmissions like TH350 or 700R4 directly to those crate engines, or they are swapping in heavy-duty manual transmissions with a physical clutch pedal. They are stripping the engine bay of 40 pounds of plastic and useless copper wire. When they are done, the engine only requires 3 wires to run, one for the starter, one for the alternator, and one for the ignition coil. Why on earth would a mechanic go backward in technology? Because a carburetor operates on pure, uninterrupted physics. It does not rely on a silicon microchip or a line of computer code to tell it what to do. It relies on engine vacuum and the Venturi effect to pull fuel into the cylinders based on the physical velocity of the air moving through it. There is no electronic throttle body to throw you into limp mode. There is no software flash required to make it run. There are no oxygen sensors reading exhaust gases and telling a computer to lean out your fuel mixture. As one of our viewers, P80T5 Turbo, perfectly pointed out in the comments, if a gasket fails on a carburetor in the middle of nowhere, you can trace a new one from a cardboard cereal box, cut it out with a pocket knife, bolt it back together, and drive home. Try doing that with a fried motherboard. When you drop a carbureted V8 and a mechanical transmission into an empty engine bay, you achieve a level of vehicular independence that the modern auto industry desperately wants to destroy. You have a modern, comfortable body on top with an unhackable, untrackable, analog heart beating underneath. But this level of mechanical freedom absolutely terrifies regulators. If you attempt this swap today, you are stepping onto a legal battlefield. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and state regulators like the California Air Resources Board, CARB, have drawn a hard line in the sand. Under federal emissions tampering laws, it is illegal to remove the emissions control devices from a vehicle, and it is strictly illegal to swap an older, unregulated engine into a newer chassis for on-road use. If your truck was born with an oxygen sensor, a catalytic converter, and an OBD2 port, the government legally mandates that it must die with them. In states with strict inspections, if you roll into a testing station with a gleaming 4-barrel Holley carburetor sitting where a plastic intake manifold is supposed to be, you will fail the inspection instantly. Your registration will be denied. The government will tell you that your property is illegal to drive on public roads. To survive this regulatory trap, mechanics are having to use legal loopholes. They are registering these swap trucks as farm vehicles, securing antique or classic license plates, or living in rural counties that refuse to implement emissions testing. The regulators claim this crackdown is entirely about protecting the environment, but mechanics and truck owners know it is really a battle over property rights and control. If the automaker holds the software keys to your engine, and the government dictates exactly what physical metal parts you are legally allowed to bolt to it under threat of massive fines. Did the property actually transfer to you when you bought it? Or did you just buy a very expensive, highly regulated lease? This regulatory squeeze is exactly why the true forever engines, the ones built long before the restrictive computer mandates of 1996, are skyrocketing in value. Mechanics are hunting down the legendary Chrysler 225/6. They are pulling Ford 300 Inline Sixes out of abandoned farm equipment. They are buying up every small block Chevy made before 1986. These are the untouchable engines, the ones that were grandfathered in. They are immune to impending mandates for in-cabin surveillance sensors, and they cannot be bricked by a forced over-the-air software update. The automotive industry and the federal government want you trapped. They want to force you into an $80,000 digital truck by making it legally and financially exhausting to keep your analog truck alive. They want to make self-reliance a crime. But the American aftermarket is fighting back. We are not just consumers, we are fabricators and problem solvers. If they stop making the computers, we will rip them out. If they try to ban the hardware, we will find a way around it. Have you ever done a carburetor swap or an engine delete to escape a failing computer system? What state are you in, and how are the emissions laws affecting your ability to keep your truck on the road? Sound off in the comments below, because your ingenuity is writing the survival guide for the rest of us. If you refuse to surrender your property to the dealership cartel, hit the subscribe button to join the resistance. Keep turning your own wrenches, stay off the digital grid, and we will see you in the next one.